I'd like to talk about a term that many of us throw around when we're surprised about something in another culture. Having recently moved to Japan, I have been weaving in and out of certain stages of culture shock, and I want to talk about it so that I can help inform others so they can be prepared before coming to Japan or even other places. It's not necessarily Japan specific, but this is my story. The first stage is one I think you can feel before you even arrive to Japan. This stage is the honeymoon phase. In this stage, you're going to fall in love with Japan, anime, the food, people, and scenery. Japan can do no wrong in this phase, and you might even perceive it as the most perfect place with the most perfect people on earth. This stage can last a really long time, and some might not ever leave it without actually visiting and living in Japan for some time. You will see Japan through your very own pair of pink sunglasses, and it will be the perfect place for you to move to. I find this is usually where people, including myself, are looking at only the material aspect of the culture. This part is the movies, anime, snacks, silly English phrases on clothing, or just how nice and extra polite all those Japanese people are every day. Now, this isn't to say any of this is untrue, or that you don't actually feel this way, but it is the first stage. I think it is largely what would drive someone to want to live in Japan in the first place, like me. However, like a real honeymoon, all good things must come to an end. This is where the real culture shock begins. The second stage is the crisis or culture shock stage. I've seen it called by a couple different names, so I decided to include both of them. I think this stage can't really be reached unless you come and live in Japan, and I don't think there's really a time limit on any stage, so you could reach this at any moment after moving here. This is where things are going to start to get really difficult for you, and it can be pretty unexpected. Similar to a depression, the things that you previously loved or found novelty in have suddenly become annoying, or you just plainly no longer get any enjoyment out of them. You might find that while you used to love the silly English phrases all over the place, you're now frustrated with the absolutely horrible translations of food items or other things that you might be trying to actually read. The niceties of Japanese people are now frustrating you more than anything. Like when you sit down at a restaurant excited to use some Japanese, and you get handed an English menu with those bad translations included, and you're just left thinking, what the is bean curd? Or how the very polite society you once thought worked so greatly due to its willingness to work together and collaborate now just seems extremely conformist, with many people you talk to not really able to express their own opinions or stand out as individuals. Just accepting the status quo and seemingly letting others or societal norms decide their every decision, from buying their products to their values, dreams, and goals, to views on money, saving, work culture, and family. Not deciding for themselves, but just kind of accepting the flow of things, and anyone who does anything different is deemed as lazy, undesirable, or plain has bad morals. More and more things like that will pile on, and many of them I'm sure will be much different from the things that got on my nerves, but this certainly will be a point where you might feel like you've made a mistake coming to Japan and will want to go home. I know it seems impossible that something like this could even happen to you, because Japan is a really great place to be. This, however, is where many foreigners decide enough is enough, and they return home where they understand what is going on around them and can fit back into society and to resume normal life again. Much of the issues in this phase, for many, will come down to the language barriers and how open-minded you are. I think the most challenging part of this stage is you'll have to rely a lot on others to help you. You're not going to be able to navigate through Japan, Japanese society, or the amount of crazy paperwork you'll have to do by yourself. This can make you feel really incompetent, and it made me feel like a 5-year-old constantly needing assistance with anything serious I want to do. This is still an issue. That's tough, and you'll feel like a burden, so you'll need someone you can really rely on. Whether that be a close friend, a family member, a girlfriend or boyfriend, husband or wife, whichever, anyone that you can talk to and get help from. Good news is, as dark as that stage can get, and as much as you might feel like you're starting to dislike Japan, that phase does have an ending. Eventually, you'll start to come out of it, and might even return to more of the attitude you had before slipping into the actual crisis or culture shock, although a little different. You might learn to accept the way of public conformity as a way to just avoid arguments between people, or that the bad English translations are indeed an issue, but instead of feeling frustrated, you no longer need them because your Japanese is good enough now. Or it's just funny to you and you order your food happily, eat it, and then move on. This is the recovery and adjustment stage. If you've managed to stay in Japan this long, then I congratulate you, because while things weren't easy, You chose to stick it out, and your reward is nearly here. This is where you're going to become more positive. You'll go outside with a smile on your face, and you'll enter those long lines to get some food because it's fun and you're excited to join in on the excitement. You're not going to fully agree with everything, but it won't bother you as much, and you're going to calm down here. You'll feel like this can become your home. I've seen this phase split into two, but for the sake of simplicity in this video, I'll attempt to shorten things a little here. While browsing around for articles to gather more information, I came across an article from College Parent Central talking about the fourth, but in this case, not the final stage. The article was focused on students, and I think it could be useful for some, so I wanted to touch on it a little. They called this portion the isolation stage, where you might start realizing it isn't the culture around you that you have a problem with, but instead it could be some internal conflicts you've yet to deal with that is really getting to you. Being abroad will really pull these problems out, and you'll start to have to deal with them in order to live your normal life. You might calm down in this stage and realize things weren't really getting to you, but inside, you realize your friends, classes, or even major isn't what you expected out of your schooling abroad, and now you have to figure out how to resolve that, understanding that is more of your source of frustration than anything is really going to help you. Then you can target and deal with your problems, rather than blaming it on the world around you. Now for the final stage, the adoption stage. This is the stage where all your hard work really pays off. It is here you'll start to feel proud of the knowledge you've gained, and maybe have even adopted a lot of new habits from Japanese society and culture that you didn't think you'd do before. In this stage, you really adapt to Japanese culture, and you'll feel like it's your home now. You'll mature a lot by this stage, and gain a larger understanding of the things that go on around you. In this stage, when you think about how hard things were previously, you'll see a much younger you, even though it may have only been around a year ago, or maybe even only a couple months ago. You'll look back and see a you that knew much less than you thought you did, and someone who was easily flustered over what seems like now very minor issues, if even any issue at all. The knowledge, maturity, and strength you'll have gained by this stage will be so much of a reward, you'll feel you've grown in many ways you couldn't have even imagined. And you might even start thinking about challenging yourself to a completely new culture in the future, as I did when I was thinking about trying to live in South Korea or Australia for some time. My opinion is this stage will probably feel different for most people, because it would depend on what you've been doing until this point, if you've even made it this far, as many people give up before even getting to this spot. Many people find that maybe living in Japan or whichever country they chose really truly just isn't for them, and so they return home before they get here. Overall though, here is where you'll be able to adapt to the aspects of Japanese culture to your daily life and become one with it, so to speak. You'll have truly become a multicultural person, able to weave in and out of both of your own culture and in Japanese culture. You've made it. So what's next? Reverse culture shock. But let's save that topic for another day, as that really threw me off when I went back to America after being in Japan for only 2 months. I don't know what is going to happen after being in Japan for a whole year. So, till next time, see you around. And with that, we've reached the end of this video. And I know this video is a little bit different than the type of videos I normally make on this channel. So if you liked watching it and if you enjoyed this topic, please let me know in the comments so that I can make more of them in the future. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I do hope to see you again here next time. Till then, see you around.